far away in a place called Showland. There was a young orphan named Shoposho. He lived alone, but he wasn't poor. His parents had left him a rich inheritance, and he owned many fields. Despite this, the villagers did not treat him kindly. Many were jealous of his wealth, and often took what was his, leaving Shoposho with no true friends. He grew tired of the villagers' behavior towards him. They encroached upon his property, took away what belonged to him, and gave him no room for friendship. And so one day, he packed some food, including some meat from a pig, and grabbed his favorite spear, which he had sharpened nicely, and left Show Village to look for a better life elsewhere. Shoposho walked for miles and miles, crossing valleys and entering deep, dark jungles. Along the way, he saw signs of wild animals but kept moving. Soon he noticed a gigantic footprint in the mud, as big as a plate. Now this is something exciting, he thought. Then, up ahead, he saw a cave, with two large glowing eyes peering out. It was Paokhadu, a huge tiger from the jungle. To greet him, Shoposho tossed a piece of cooked meat toward the tiger. But Paokhadu wasn't interested. So he tried again, this time throwing a raw piece of meat, which Paokhadu ate right away. "Can we be friends?" Shoposho asked bravely. Paokhadu looked at him and replied, "I only befriend the one named Shoposho." Shoposho smiled. "That's me," he said, and from that moment on, the two became fast friends. Paokhadu took Shoposho into his cave, and together they explored the jungle. They hunted, laughed, and shared many adventures. Shoposho felt truly happy in his new life, learning every corner of the forest with his friend. One morning, they found a thick vine hanging over the cave entrance. Paokhadu tried pulling it down, but it wouldn't budge. Shoposho, with his sharp spear, cut it down in one go. Paokhadu was amazed, thinking, "My friend's spear is as sharp as a tiger's teeth." But Shoposho warned him, "Never touch my spear or you might get hurt." Paokhadu, being curious, eventually couldn't resist and ended up hurting his paw on the sharp blade. Seeing his friend in pain, Shoposho scolded him, but quickly went hunting to bring him food and help him heal. Soon Paokhadu was back on his feet, and the two friends returned to their playful adventures. Sometimes they even went back to Show Village just for fun. Seeing the giant tiger, the villagers would run away, leaving baskets of rice or salt behind, which Shoposho would happily carry back to the cave. One day, while they were resting, Shoposho asked Paokhadu, "If I ever die, would you eat me?" Paokhadu laughed, saying, "If I did, you'd come back to cut me." They often teased each other like this. Once, Shoposho even pretended to be dead, lying still on the ground. Paokhadu, worried, tried to wake him but got no response. Thinking Shoposho was truly gone, Paokhadu started digging a grave. But as he tried to lift a heavy rock for the grave, he began letting out loud farts from the effort, which made Shoposho burst out laughing. Paokhadu realized he'd been tricked and asked, "Why did you fool me like that?" They both laughed, knowing their friendship was strong. A few days later, they went out for a stroll in the jungle. For a while, Shoposho did not notice the absence of his friend. However, turning around to find the tiger no longer behind him, he traced his way back and found Paokhadu lying on the grass, thinking it must be to get back at him. Shoposho took out his spear and playfully pretended to contemplate on cutting his head, then moved further to his paws and other parts of the body. But Paokhadu laid still. He got worried, but he thought of a trick and plucked one of Paokhadu's whiskers, sticking it up his nose. Paokhadu started sneezing and they both laughed, realizing they had fooled each other. One day the villagers came to ask Shoposho to return home. The only reason they did so was because they could no longer stand Paokhadu's frequent unwarranted intrusions. "Shoposho, please come home. We will return all your belongings and all your fields," they pleaded. Shoposho thought about it and decided it might be wise to go back home and start anew, for in a way he was also deeply rooted to his birthplace. And so, after a tearful goodbye, he hugged Paokhadu and left with his people. Shoposho and Paokhadu paid visits to each other every once in a while. They would chat and laugh over good old memories. But times had, however, changed. As years went by, one day, Shoposho fell seriously ill and was bedridden. So he sent a honeybee as a messenger to Paokhadu's cave. But his friend refused to believe the news. "How can I trust a honeybee's words?" he thought. Then Shoposho sent a king wasp. This time he mindfully thought, "Perhaps it is true, since a king in its own right has come to deliver me the message." So he hunted a deer and hurriedly set out for Sho village. When he got there, Shoposho's relatives stopped Paokhadu from seeing him. He silently wept and requested Shoposho to give him his hand through a tiny window. When he did, Paokhadu took his friend's hand and left him a teardrop. "I have left a bunch of green leaves for you outside," he told him and left. While in truth, it was a deer that he brought. Shoposho felt worse and worse, and sadly he passed away with thoughts of his dear friend Paokhadu and their jungle adventures filling his heart. His funeral was one of the saddest days for the Sho people, saddened more so because of the guilt they felt for the way they had treated him at the beginning. A large parade of animals even marched into the village to pay their last respects at the funeral. But none were as heartfelt as Paokhadu's tribute. He laid a deer, a wild cat, and a jungle fowl on Shoposho's grave as a final gift for the friend he would never forget.